What happens when a wound doesn't dissolve, even in spirit? Welcome to Mediumship Sparks. I'm Noelle Dean, intuitive medium, licensed therapist, and your host. I am endlessly amazed by how spirit reaches out to us, supports us, and loves us, sometimes in the most surprising and unexpected ways. If, like me, you're drawn to those sparks of insight that bring you greater peace, healing, flow, and just make everything make more sense, whether you're finding us for the first time or we have already shared this space, I'm so happy you're here. Let's dig in. This is part 2 of a 3-part series exploring what it means when a wound remains present after someone has crossed over and what that reveals about healing, responsibility, and the role of the soul.
I want her to be healed because I obviously came to you because I was looking for like closure, right? Like that was the whole reason.
Can I ask you a question? So you did come
Sure.
and we did a mediumship reading a month and a half ago, something like that. Oh, no, it was like that
January
first couple of
5th.
days in January. It's been, all right, just about a month. And do you feel like you got the closure that you were hoping for? You might not, and you're not going to hurt my feelings. I'm just being curious.
I don't know. It's very conflicted. I left with we have an idea of what we think the afterlife is. So I really felt like Catholic religion would say she should be in purgatory. She should be repenting for whatever wrong she did. So then I said in my head, because I don't think she should be allowed to be scot-free and running around enjoying her Corvette she made reference to. She should be getting the hell healed if that's an option. So then I thought maybe they let her out of purgatory to come talk to us and then maybe she had to go back. I don't know. I guess it left me like not ever wanting to try to connect with her again because of what happened. And then, but still, that I think because she's your mother, like you still want that connection, if that makes sense. It's hard to say because it's like everything she said up until she said F you Noelle, was that bullshit? Did she really mean it? Because she did some shitty things on her way out, all kinds of like petty bullshit that like I can't even imagine doing. So I guess I wouldn't really want to connect with her as she was, right?
There's a difference between somebody who is healed and somebody who is like paying their penance kind of thing, just based on what you were just sharing about. And look, I'm with you on, I have no designs on pretending that I understand the afterlife and all that is included in that at all by any stretch. Sometimes I've listened to other mediums and they'll be like, I got your father here and he's driving around in his Corvette and he's going fishing and like all the things that he would have ideally wanted to do when he was alive. And I'm like scratching my head about that because that's not my experience in talking to people who are no longer in a body like at all. But what do I know? Maybe they were religious and that was their construct for the afterlife and their soul is living that way, or they're just sharing that because that's their way of communicating to their loved one, hey, I'm doing great. If who I was back then is still who I am now, I'd be fishing, I'd be driving in my Corvette. I really don't know. I don't have the belief of hell. I think the penance is having to come to grips with who you were, having to really own that. The life review that many people have spoken about when you pass and you have to face all the impacts of how you affected other people. And you could look at that like a penance because you have to face who you've been. And that, to some people, that would feel like hell, I'm sure. So I don't know that she's driving around in some Corvette scot-free. That sounds to me more like the image that she was trying to portray when we were talking to her. And also, just to catch up, anybody's listening to this, when the first probably 20 minutes of our mediumship reading, she was saying all kinds of positive things. I think she might have even been apologizing. You never gave me a heads up about how she was when she was here. It seemed pretty convincing that she was, I wouldn't say a doting mother, but that she loved you and she would say positive things. And then it just started to shift and go in a very different direction. I don't even remember what happened.
I started to ask her about her estate and her will. And those
Gotcha.
are things that I think I have different kind of ideas, but it was like she couldn't then deny to you who she was in her actions of what she's done. So I felt like that was a part where I just got the chills again, that she was like maybe embarrassed or ashamed, possibly. And then instead of being able to deal with that, she puts it on the other person. So when I was
Yeah.
asking, like, were you happy with the way you left things, is when I felt like it totally took that
Mm.
turn.
Thank you. And just as you started saying that, I just felt very aware of the energy of narcissism. There's this image that's created, and you poked a hole in that image to me in that moment right in front of her.
Even though
He
I didn't tell you
shifted.
what she did, I
No,
didn't
you
say
didn't.
anything.
You didn't. Yeah. But she said something really that sounded nice. And I remember just whatever it was, there was a look on your face of no, like the jig was up. It was weird.
And again, I wasn't trying to make it about me, but I was like, man, if this was the only reading I've ever had, I don't know that I would go back, not
Of
because
course
of
not.
you, but
Yeah.
because of her. And
Yeah.
that brought me more concern with what if you weren't as experienced as you were. Again,
Mm,
I know you have memory issues, but you were talking to us about the person who had the schizophrenia and how you were
mhm.
connecting with the entity and maybe you shouldn't have. Had you not told me that, I probably would have really felt weird leaving you
Um,
alone, just meaning that nobody else was there. I felt weird leaving in a car and I had
mm.
someone to leave with. I don't know. I
I
just
hear you. Yeah.
it was very hard to explain. I feel like I'm crazy when I try to explain it to someone.
Oh, you don't sound crazy to me at all. You sound like a concerned human being that understands the depth to which the human being that was your mother in this life was just the term coming to me is genuinely fucked up. And you wouldn't wish her on anybody, including an experienced medium, to have to
Right.
deal with the real shit as it started oozing out, which it did after however much time. And then the real nastiness was there. And we did it in person. Most of my readings are over Zoom. So there's that natural barrier. So I appreciate the thoughtfulness of what you're saying and that you didn't want to do that to another human being. But she didn't hang around, just so you know. And I remember, like you were mentioning earlier, we had asked while we were all together for Archangel Michael to ship her off home so that she would be
Right.
away because we wanted to rid ourselves of that energy. And I didn't feel the energy hang around.
Yeah, I think you said that at some point that her energy had left, which
Yeah.
again, I think it was just me probably us not communicating the fact that she said F you when I was there because you were trying
Yeah.
to spare me of that. And then hearing it on a podcast, and I'm like, oh my gosh, is my mother haunting her? Because that's not
Oh,
at all what
hmm.
I wanted. And yet it
Yeah.
seems like just so much like her. Makes
You're
sense. I
right.
wanted to validate it.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah. She's just not the only one. But the twist of it, that was the first time I experienced like the twist. I'm thinking of another mother that I connected with. The best friend was right there. That was my first probably seeing the supervising person. And for anybody listening, what has come up in readings that I've done and with my own sister is that when somebody was really not well and still not well, they have a chaperone. So my grandmother, when my sister first passed, told me that her role was being a supervisor of my sister. Many times after that, I would connect with my sister and a grandmother or our father even always showed up with her. In the podcast episodes that I did with her when I rebooted my podcast, that was the first time I think we interacted and there was no supervisor. Her energy was very different. It felt very right to have her on the podcast. We had also apologized to each other for things. We'd had some real moments. I apologized to her for things that I had done and even how I was still relating to her. So we cleaned up a lot of stuff. I know that you already know this, but I don't feel like that is the right thing or possible with Carol at this stage of her development and healing. And I feel like, as somebody who cares about you, we don't really know each other, but just as a friend, I would say don't be tempted to connect with her unless you have a very strong sense that she is different, because her energy is just as shitty and toxic, it seems, as it was. And she may decide to hang around. You can call Archangel Michael, but persistence can happen.
To be honest, it was scary. It was a
Hmm.
scary situation that I just wanted to make sure there's no lingering issues with you or for me with her.
Do you?
Before I saw you, I told you that I felt like she was going to push me down the steps the one night, so I
Oh,
didn't
God,
go
that's right.
downstairs.
Yeah.
I haven't felt that again. I do feel like she's here sometimes. I'm not calling her here. I guess that would be the question. I don't think you have an answer, but it's should I ever try to connect with her again? And why didn't she get the darn life review? Because you asked her and she said no. She showed the Corvette like she'd rather be having fun than do the life review. And it's like she needs to do the life review.
She has to do it in her own time when it's genuine, is my impression. And clearly, she doesn't seem there. She might be there tomorrow on our timeline. I have no idea. And I, as someone who cares about how you're doing, I wouldn't recommend, even if you were a seasoned medium, I'd be like, do you really want to do that? Do it in a
Well,
group of
that's a
people so everybody can rid her energy from you if that's the case. I wouldn't. If she was my family member, no effing way would I be like, hey, let's see how she's doing. Just like I don't connect with that entity. I don't talk about them other than to just say it's an entity. I don't use the name. I'm not interested. I have no desire to connect. And I have to be super clear in the marrow of my bones to not do that, to not want that. When I first realized it was almost like an infection, I would be like, but he's funny. But I had to be like, stop. What the fuck am I doing? That's like making friends with the mental health disorder itself. You can see how toxic it is, but until you're super clear, I don't need that. I don't want that. Maybe it's like a bad boyfriend. You're like, the sex was good. You're like, yeah, but look at the whole package. Look at the whole package. Not worth it.
So what would make someone an entity versus Carol?
Carol is somebody who was no longer incarnate in a body, but she was alive not long ago. The entity is an energy. I don't know if that, just focusing on that entity, I don't know that was somebody who had a life in a previous point in time. I felt like maybe they did. I might have even asked them that. I don't remember, but that's how I look at it. And I was just talking to somebody and they were using those words a little bit interchangeably. And I was like, I'm making up in my head what I think it means. I don't know how other people would define it. I would say like in an energy attachment that may not be like a developed soul kind of thing. That's how I look at it, but I haven't researched it to see what somebody else might actually define it as who has more experience with it than I do.
Podcast you just recently had with another medium who said there's different levels, and I
Mm-hmm.
really appreciated that it would come to you the way that you would understand it. So how it would come to you would be different than someone else, and
Yeah,
perhaps even me. It would just be different ways that we would get the information, how we could understand it and process it. That made total
absolutely.
sense to me.
She inspired me. I think this was Melody, and she inspired me to want to talk to more mediums about how they receive and perceive stuff because it is going to be a little bit different for everybody. And I love that because maybe she's more advanced in that kind of way than I am, that she sees it that way. Not that matters, but I'm just saying that could be why she sees it that way. Or maybe that's just how she relates to, I see it like an elevator kind of thing. And then it just makes sense to her that way. But yeah, it is really interesting to hear the different ways. And then there's what feels right to you. That's the thing about spirituality, is it's nothing about it really is one size fits all. And that's what I kind of love and also argue with in my head at times, because some people believe in things that the rest of us might be like, what the? There's no way that it just sounds so out there. And then sometimes I'm saying stuff where I'm like, oh crap, I'm that person now, where I'm saying things that just sound so out there. It's very like individual specific, which is cool. And I feel like my sister is wanting to communicate something to you. And it feels very heartfelt that she's encouraging you. You might try not being afraid of the spiritual world because you have certain boundaries for Carol that you may not need to have, or you may not feel like you need to have with any other human beings who've left the earth that you knew. and that there's so much love that surrounds you. She's just encouraging you. She's showing you curling yourself up in a ball, like the idea of trying to be self-protective by being small and like unnoticed and unseen. But she's just letting you know, like, Carol is Carol. And she's saying the rest of us are healed or are healing. And there's a lot of support, unconditional love and support for you from the spiritual world that you don't really need to close yourself off from, but you have to feel you're safe. And you trusting your discernment is the whole key. And I have found myself saying that to you when you were here and even now today about trust your intuition, because I'm super clear from what I'm feeling about you from the spiritual world that you really do have good discernment. And even though she's your mom, and I'm sure there's a part of you that's always a little bit hopeful, because those of us that have moms that were difficult, it's hard not to have some hope that someday, somehow, things will be better and you'll actually have the experience of a quote mom that you will maybe have always wanted. But she's just letting you know there's certainly much love around you, and you don't need to be afraid of that part. But you have to keep the gates closed on what feels iffy or related to your mom, like evilish. I feel like Noelle wants to add the caveat. It doesn't mean you don't make mistakes. Just last year, I was practically boyfriend, girlfriend with a fucking entity that's been haunting somebody for 26 years. I make mistakes. He got under my radar. He kept me company. He was funny. It was charming. Obviously, I'm a sucker for somebody who makes me laugh.
I think that's what prevents me from even trying, though, because I feel like I've been afraid of possibly having any of those gifts for a really long time, that I really don't even try to connect, because I don't know if normal people are afraid of the afterlife or if you're afraid of the afterlife because you could possibly connect with it. I don't know.
Afraid of the quote being dead, or the people who are quote dead?
The spirits,
Okay.
to be clear. The people without pants, as you used in your last podcast.
Thank using that. Yeah. I hear you. Look, it would make sense that having the experience that you had with Carol would have tainted the water for sure. It feels right to say there are books you could read. There are people you could talk to. There are classes you could take if you wanted to, where you could learn that sense of self-protection if it was an area that you wanted to indulge in. These are the words I'm getting. Because from an objective perspective, if you have a strange, weird, unhealthy, unfulfilled mother space, I hope that makes sense, that you, oh, interesting, that you might also want to go around filling it by live people who may also be nasty sometimes. This is a weird perspective. Okay. Am I getting this right? Don't ask me how she was saying it. I was just trying to be in the flow of it. Basically, what it feels like she's saying, and she'll correct me if I'm wrong, is that if you have this void or gap, like a mother hole, let's say, or a mother wound, you might be like, who else can I see that might at least have a little piece of love like that for me? And you could look for that in the spiritual world. You could look for that in the 3D world here. She's saying you have to use your discernment either way. And you have to pay attention to how it feels like in your intuition either way. And there's no guarantee necessarily either way, because people can hide who they were. And that's what I really saw with Carol, is that she was able to cloak the shittiness that she exudes for a little while, and then it came out. The therapist in me wants to also add that because you had that experience with her, I can see how you would feel like in some ways your radar might be off, because you might be more likely to attract somebody with that kind of energy, because in some ways it feels familiar, or you'll be repelled by it. Either way, you're going to have to use your discernment. My sister's even saying, and I'm with her on this, what a pity for you to not feel more comfortable with the spiritual existences around you, but completely understandable why you would feel that way. And maybe it's just not the time for you to do that. But Noelle, feel sad about that for you, because I feel like my life is so much richer because of my spiritual connections. But I too had reasons to not trust it for a long time, or trust myself is really the big thing. And I see in you that you do have a level of self-trust, which is something to treasure, that you've had to develop that. But you have to feel safe and discern what feels right to you. It just from a place of being fearful versus, I just don't think I want to engage in that, is really different.
I did try to get like a spiritual download, which we had talked about
Hmm.
during reading too, but I haven't spent as much time trying to get it as much. I want to get it in my sleep. I do feel like a lot of things come to me when I wake up first thing in the morning that I have more clarity than I do before I
Mm.
go to bed.
It sounds like that's what they're doing. I get stuff as I'm falling asleep, which I'm not loving because then I have to send myself a little email
Oh,
or I put it in the notes app or something. So the next
I
day I'm
do
like,
both
oh,
of
right. But yeah. And my sister's reminding you, we're all just doing our best. You're
Thank you for
in
me
the spiritual
because
plane.
I didn't
Yeah.
know if she normally came to other people's readings, but I appreciate that she was there, even though I didn't know.
She's saying that normally she's minding her own business.
No, we needed her. We definitely,
Yeah. Yeah. She's just commenting that it was like an exaggeratingly like pronounced experience. So she felt like she had to jump in and leap in front of or next to or aside to block out some of that from Carol. And now she's all proud of herself and flexing her biceps. I'm glad that she's feeling proud that she's helping. And I do feel like, and not to make it about me, but I do feel, and this feels very true and heartfelt, is that she did heal maybe so she could do this, like for you and for other people. And I haven't had that experience with her before. So I'm glad you're reminding me of that because I did forget. My sister's saying that she's acting like a placeholder for the better, more healed version of the person and how they would want to become or be with their loved one. There's some form of your mother's soul that would want to be that more healed mother kind of energy. And she was trying to project that at first, but I guess my sister could feel that she wasn't really there. Like there was no integrity. You can feel when somebody's like lying, let's say. And I guess she could feel that from Carol. And so she like stepped in as if she was next to maybe. So were you like the supervisor of that? Okay. You were saying that earlier. Was Lisa like the supervisor of that? And I guess she was. Thank you, Lisa. She says, no problem. Oh, sorry. She said, no problemo, which was something she used to say when she was younger. That's cute. And she's saying that she was happy to help you and that you needed that in that moment. And she's commenting that she doesn't believe that your mom's like trailing around after
okay.
you kind of thing. Not to take away from, you may feel her at times. And I don't know if this is helpful. You can really research how to remove the energy of people like that. But I had somebody hanging around. I don't think it was your mom. I don't know who it was, but I was feeling some different energy in my house. And it was bugging me because not that it felt bad, but I just wasn't sure what to make of it. And they weren't really like fessing up about who it was. So I would just imagine in my head that I could just push the energy way to the ocean. And I would do that. I would just either spin in a circle slowly and just push, whooshing it away. And then creating visuals in my home of a dome of white light that is protective and that being energy is not welcome to come back in.
I do the white light almost every night. I
Good.
imagine it like with me and my husband, like my room and then my house, and then I send it across the
Nice.
whole United
Mm-hmm.
States to everybody I know, kind of thing.
Nice. Yeah.
Another
Lisa's saying keep
question.
doing that.
The woman next door that you saw, was that Lisa showing you? During my reading, there was a fucked up woman with fucked up lipstick. Those were your words.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I
I'm
forgot about that.
curious, like that's what you got before you really knew what you were getting into with Carol. So I'm wondering like
Mm.
how that came to you.
What Christine is bringing up is during the reading, I had a flashback to an old neighbor of, gosh, this was my first apartment in San Diego. And it was a woman who lived next door with her husband. He was some kind of security guard. They were probably in their late 50s. I don't know if I could describe her. She was always dressed not appropriate for the weather. Like she'd wear a heavy, kind of furish looking coat, even like in summertime. She had blondish, whitish hair that was always messed up. And often her lipstick or her makeup was messed up looking. She just looked like somebody who was very much suffering from mental illness and very not put together, not very lucid. She might have been like very drugged for all I know. She seemed barely half there, her energy, barely half there. And I did get a flash of her. And was that from Lisa? I would say that's from my guides, because being reminded of things that I can relate to and it helps illustrate something, that is a common occurrence. And I don't know how they do it. They go in your memory banks and they pull stuff out. I can't even imagine how that works.
It was amazing because for me, I knew it wasn't the appearance. I said to you, how did she make you feel? And that was like, that's how I knew it was Carol, because it wasn't a good feeling. And I was like, okay, because Carol's appearance didn't match that, but that weird something's not right feeling,
yeah,
is how I would describe Carol.
Oh, absolutely. Like an ick factor. Now, I didn't have a sense, whereas like Carol is like the kind of person that would like deliberately set out to hurt people. My neighbor seemed very benign in many ways. She was like too frozen-ish, was my impression of her, to even, she didn't even leave the house often. And I think she only ever left with her husband that I remember.
Like the house either, though. She didn't like to leave the house.
Oh,
so
yeah.
that was similar.
Lisa saying parallels.
For taking the time to really, it's like I needed an explanation of the reading that I actually attended, if that made sense. And
That
I can't
totally
tell
makes
you how
sense.
much I really appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. And whatever like peace or understanding or validation that you really can walk away with, because I do this really to support people. I work to not have a fixed idea of how it's going to go, because then I'm just trying to be a certain way or have it be airy fairy positive. And sometimes it's not.
I wouldn't have wanted that, as much as it was a very odd experience. You gave me so much closure today. I feel better about the whole experience by understanding what you were experiencing, was really what I wanted to know too. I wouldn't have wanted it filtered, because then it was more real because of the way it happened, if that makes sense.
I'm going to try to remember that, because like I think the protective empath in me wants to have it be a nice experience. And you're right, not saying even something that seemed super fucked up and was directed at me. You're right, that would have been a total validation that it was her and the true colors coming out kind of thing. And I was feeling like I'm protecting you, but I could see how that would have just been like, oh, there she is. Thank you. Because that's exactly how she was. And I hear you. Protecting people from the truth is something I still have to let go of.
I mean, I think it really, as a therapist, right, it depends on the person. Like I would have been fine, but maybe someone else wouldn't have. So,
Good
I
point.
mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Trust your own judgment. I came seeking more information from you after I saw the podcast, listened to it, said that sounds like Carol, debated a while, thought I really need to email you and see, because it just wouldn't leave me alone. It just kept nagging at me. And I'm like, let me just ask her.
Oh, I'm really glad you did. So thank you for being willing to reach out and be like, I'm still scratching my head over this kind of thing. I would hope anybody who gets a reading, if they're really left in that puzzled place, that they do reach out to whoever gave the reading, because if we're coming from the right intention, we want that. I wanted you to feel healed or at peace afterwards, and that you weren't. It's good that you reached out. This is real shit.
I saw a therapist the same week I saw you. So I saw you on a Monday and I went to therapy on a Friday. And I told the therapist I saw you, not specifically you, but I thought she's really gonna wonder about me. But I'm like, that, like, she even showed up her personality with the medium the way she was in life. Like, just more validation of just this is who she was and this is who she is. And I didn't come to you with an agenda. It was just hoping that she would be a different person in the afterlife than she was during this life, and trying to get some answers of why she was the person she was in real life. But I think sometimes the answer is there isn't an answer.
My sister's saying no answers yet. And I want to hold on to hope that at some point, maybe 10, 30 years from now, maybe next month, she will actually, the phrase I'm getting is being imbued with healing and be better. But you'd have to be really convinced, I think, for you to even let the wall down a little bit. Anybody, mother, brother, sister, if my sister hadn't healed from how she was, I wouldn't be connecting with her, even though I can, but I wouldn't want to. I'm not dealing with that shit.
The last question, not that I'm wanting to connect with
It's okay.
Carol
It's okay.
at the moment,
Yeah.
but
We're not open to Carol joining us at all.
Again?
Yeah.
But would you be willing to do that in the future? And if not, that's okay too. I'm just curious.
I would ask my team. I'm assuming that your team and my spirit team knew that you needed the experience that you had to validate and help you heal and close the circle on that. So if at some point you actually wanted to connect with her again, then I would be asking again if that's right. And not that I would be unwilling. She can cuss me out if she wants to. I would have to know it's the right thing for everybody, kind of thing. So if you really wanted to do I'm not saying I would definitely do it. I would have to ask, because I ask about all readings, if it's for the highest good to do that. But if it was for your highest good, even if you wanted to do one today, and I got yes, I would do it because I trust in my team. There's a bigger purpose for that kind of thing. But I'm also just reminded of all the other beings in the universe that have love and can give it freely for us to maybe that's part of our life lessons in this life, is to not focus on and hang on to the one person who was more evil than good to us
100%.
in life, and to move the fuck on and away from that, because that isn't what you need or what you need to learn from anymore. It's just hard when it's your mother. Thank you for spending this time with me on Mediumship Sparks. I truly believe that with mediumship, the only real limit is our imagination. If this podcast speaks to you, please rate and subscribe. If it could be useful to someone you care about, please share it. If you're interested in a reading or getting some support to navigate the spiritual path you're on or the one you want to be on, I offer a free consultation to discuss what you're looking for and how I can help. Learn more about my readings and classes at connectingwithnoelle.com. Subscribe on YouTube, Connecting with Noelle, for helpful videos and video podcast episodes. Take good care of yourself, and I look forward to being with you again soon.